Hello, Jordan Chariton, live Status Coup. It is Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. Hope everyone's doing okay. Busy day so far. Busy day. I was on the Vanguard earlier talking about my upcoming first book that will be out this summer, which I will definitely have more details on as we go. And I was working on something else right before coming live. And tonight we have our members call, which I'll talk about once more people trickle in. But I was just going to do a straight call-in show where I have you guys call, which we're still going to do. But right before I went live, I saw, I think, pretty important breaking news. Where the president of Mexico spilled some tea on a recent private conversation he had with President Biden, where apparently Biden said he'll, quote, think about it as far as dropping the case against Julian Assange. So we will play that in a minute and talk about it, and then we will start taking your phone calls. We could go all around, whatever you want to talk about. The 2024 election, Assange, the slaughter and genocide in Gaza, Bigfoot, whatever you want to talk about. However, the last few call-ins, I'm open to a lot of different topics, but try to keep it within the scope of, what's going on now. Some people, have wanted to talk about some pretty off the beaten path things that I don't necessarily know that much about. So we're looking forward to taking your calls. Like I said, 7:30 Eastern, so about 2.5 hours from now, we're going to be having our monthly members call, which is one of the great perks of being a Status Coup member, on top of Biden thinking is breaking news. That's a good one, Tony. On top of supporting us, we try to do every month one members call with the members. So we'll be doing that tonight at 7:30. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. So buckle up, join in. You will get a link about a half hour before. So about 7 o'clock Eastern, you'll get a link to join us. It'll be a little different tonight. We're not doing it on Zoom anymore, but it shouldn't be that much different. You just click on the link and basically the same function. So smash the like button, share this live stream. Also, I will tell more about this later, but going forward, we will have the pre-order link for my Flint book in all the descriptions. So if you want to pre-order my book, We the Poisoned, exposing the Flint water cover-up and the poisoning of 100,000 people, the link is in the description. I would be honored for everybody that can to pre-order the book. This is based on 8 years of very extensive reporting and what will soon be my 20th trip to Flint. So I hope you will pre-order it, or if you want, go pick it up in person once it's out in August. But obviously, the more pre-orders we get, that's very, very helpful. Shows enthusiasm, will also help me get hopefully booked on bigger shows to show that there's a lot of interest in the book. All right, let's start. And again, smash the like button, share this live stream. I want to start. It might not be breaking news, but given everything that's happened this week, Tuesday was Assange's his lawyers making their case on why he deserves an appeal. It wasn't the actual appeal. He's trying to convince 2 judges to grant him an appeal. Oh, I was hoping and waiting for this. Short notice, Kevin Gostola, who has been the leading journalist on the Assange case and everything in between. I just reached out to him like 5 minutes before, asking if he can come on. So I appreciate you coming on. Let's play the clip then and get your reaction. Again, this is with the Mexican president, so it's not in English, but there's subtitles. And take it for what you want. I don't know if we could really believe what Biden told the Mexican president, but I don't think it's a coincidence that the Mexican president brought this up on his own. So the Mexican president is having an interview on, I guess, other topics, and let's see what he said.
Presidente, usted tiene una relación cordial con Joe Biden.
Sí.
Ha hablado con mucho respeto de él en términos humanos. ¿Qué tiene Joe Biden que un progresista latinoamericano no le ve y le ve a usted?
Es una gente respetuosa. Le he tratado cosas. Lo de Assange, te lo traté. Eso por primera vez lo digo.
¿Cómo fue esta conversación? ¿Qué le planteó? Sí se puede saber.
Le di una carta y le pedí que se ayudara a Assange, que era una injusticia tenerlo en la cárcel.
¿Contestó?
Me dijo que iba a pensarlo, pero no hubo una negativa.
Ahora en febrero se va a hacer.
Sí, yo espero que lo libere. Es una gran injusticia.
So I don't want to, I'm not trying to do clickbait, but I don't know. Any news that is not an outright hell no seems to be promising. Credit to the president of Mexico for bringing that up. But I think it's relevant that he sent a letter to Biden. So I don't know if Biden got back to him via letter or it was on a phone call. But the whole think about it doesn't. Why would you have to think about it if you feel very strongly in your government's continuing the case? What do you take away as somebody who's really lived and breathed this more than I, that what the Mexico president there said?
Yes, I was trying to refresh my memory of when they had this meeting. This letter that he's talking about, we have to go back to 2022. And I don't know exactly when this meeting is. It would be worth noting if this meeting happened after October 7th, when we've seen what's been happening with Israel and Gaza. I'm thinking that perhaps with all the, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't feel stressed. He should absolutely feel stressed. It's all brought on within the White House. But of course, we've been able to see that Biden has been pretty short with people, and he's been willing to say some things maybe on other issues because there's just a lot that the White House is getting in terms of blowback as a result of supporting Israeli government unapologetically. So I don't know when this took place, but it's possible that Obrador in his meeting was told, I'll think about it, which is different from what officials usually say, because Biden was just tired at the moment. Biden was just exhausted and didn't remember the talking point that he was supposed to deliver. And the talking point is usually, oh, that's in the hands of the Justice Department. You should go ask them about dropping the charges against Julian Assange. Most of the time, journalists who ask questions at the State Department or at the White House have gotten this answer. It's a non-engagement, a deliberate non-engagement. Even Tony Blinken, I would say several months ago, was in Australia. Australia has, of course, challenged them. And he gave, the State Department has actually been more open about their view of Julian Assange. In fact, thanks to Medea Benjamin, who interrupted an event that Blinken was doing, later on that day, there was a briefing in which the FLAC, the one that's not the ghoul, the one that is Verdant Patel, who is the second guy, not Matthew Miller, he was asked about it and defended the prosecution from the podium as the State Department spokesperson, saying that they believe Julian Assange is engaged in serious criminality. Usually you get a non-answer, but in that instance, they said full-blown that it was appropriate for Julian Assange to be prosecuted. So, yeah, for Obrador to say that he'll consider it, I mean, I don't know what door he thinks was left open, but it's definitely noteworthy.
Yeah, and I assume Biden and the president of Mexico, I mean, he doesn't say when they spoke, but I assume they not regularly, but speak maybe a few times a year. So, I can't say definitively when that I'll think about it was, but I think the fact that he is bringing it up now, the president of Mexico, is pretty interesting. I'll also ask you, I know you don't have too much time, but what I found pretty interesting is it seemed like the two judges this week that were hearing Assange's and the US's quote unquote case were hearing some things for the first time and hearing some arguments for the first time. I know you weren't there. You had somebody on the ground there. But from everything you could sort out, not being there, do you think that the two judges, possibly were moved by some of the information that was presented, particularly by Assange's lawyers?
Yeah. Well, first, again, thank you to Ron Placone. I was on the show yesterday and got to speak with Ron for an hour, and it was really great to share a lot of the reporting and, my own views about where things are headed with this case. I think the two big takeaways for me from those proceedings, and to keep things brief, is just to say that the government has not appropriately dealt with the issues that would raise alarm. I'm talking about the U.S. government hasn't appropriately dealt with the human rights issues that will raise alarm and get your extradition request tossed. So what came up was that there's been no assurance offered that Julian Assange won't be subject to a death penalty, because it was made clear through evidence that when he's extradited, the U.S. government can add additional charges to his indictment when he is here and put on trial. And they also raised the possibility that during sentencing, they can have aggravating conduct added to the sentencing memo, that they can raise things that weren't charged as misconduct during the trial. And then when he's sentenced, they can raise, so like the Vault 7 materials, which have come up. I know that the press thing seems to think, at CNN, they seem to think they're just now discovering that Julian Assange believes he was conspired against and that the CIA plotted to kill him. But for everyone not at CNN, this is something that should be of great concern. And it is for Julian Assange's legal team that they could get him here. And then there are these charges added related to these materials that so infuriated the CIA that WikiLeaks published them. Another thing that's come up is it's possible that I don't know exactly because I'm not a lawyer, but it's possible that the European Convention on Human Rights, that is supposed to be the overarching guide for how they handle these extradition requests, that Chelsea Manning may have been protected as a whistleblower under the European Convention on Human Rights. And that's owed to some of the information that was disclosed and how it's been used in Europe. And in particular, there's one case I think I've raised before, but just to give the clear example, Khaled al-Masri was a German citizen who was abducted by the CIA, and Macedonia was involved in that, and he was tortured. He was actually sent to a black site prison, and then he went later before the European Court of Human Rights, and he won damages against Macedonia for being involved in helping the CIA, and he used a few diplomatic cables that WikiLeaks published. So that's exposing state criminality. That is whistleblowing. If Chelsea Manning is protected, then the high court justices look directly at a problem, a fundamental dilemma. You can't have the publisher be extradited to the US, but under the European Convention on Human Rights go, oh, the source, the person who gave that information actually is a whistleblower, somebody who we would protect. So it's possible that these questions, as they're wrestling with them, it ends up helping Julian Assange because the US government, I don't think, is appreciating them as well as they should, because they just think they can just go in there and say, and it's true. WikiLeaks editor Kristen Harafson had a very good end of day quote on the second day about how they're just recycling these arguments. He said it was like we were treated to a leftover smorgasbord that has been in the refrigerator for a month. And it's just like, they go in there and they keep saying the same thing over and over again and think it's enough. Meanwhile, the defense team for Assange is working overtime to handle all these allegations, advance these arguments, deal with them to free Assange. But they just go in there and they say, Julian Assange is not an ordinary journalist, and WikiLeaks is not a legitimate publisher or a publishing organization, and these are not journalistic activities. And it's just denial, denial, denial of the evidence that is being put forward by the legal team, never engaging with what Assange's attorneys are saying and believing that it's not going to be persuasive enough to the High Court of Justice. So we'll see. It may come back to bite them, because it did actually bite them when they were in the district court, because they lost, and they lost because they never assured the judge that Julian Assange wouldn't be put in a supermax prison and wouldn't be put under this special administrative measures. And they just had so much arrogance that they believed, how could extradition ever be blocked? And then it was, because there was compelling evidence that he would try to kill himself in a U.S. detention facility. And that was enough for them to lose. So they could have a full appeal hearing be granted just by the fact that they're not appreciating these issues that are being raised by the High Court.
And last question, because I know you got to go, but
thank you.
This is kind of a, I guess, more psychological, but do you think that this is actually, like, these two judges, not that you know them, but do you think this is a legitimate process in the UK? Meaning, is this just kind of a wink, wink, like we got to rubber stamp this for our big ally, the United States? Or is there a chance that these judges might actually be looking at this legitimately and consider granting him an appeal? Because to me, clearly the United States government isn't so worried about public opinion, but I think the UK government might be a little more concerned at how bad it looks right now in terms of this is kind of like a banana republic justice system. Do you think that potentially the UK or these two judges think at the very least, like, this looks very bad? I think like John Roberts, for example, our Supreme Court, he might have in his heart wanted to strike down Roe v. Wade or wanted to strike down Obamacare, but he voted with the liberals for the, quote, sanctity of the Supreme Court's reputation. Do you think that's possible in the case of the UK?
So the reaction I can share is people who have followed this closely, like Chris Hedges, there's a well-known former ambassador, Craig Murray, who observed and has been at the proceedings, writes a lot from, I think he's based in Scotland, and others who were there, independent journalists that follow. I listened to them speak and share how they were surprised that they felt the High Court was, for the first time, actually asking crucial questions that needed to be put to these U.S. government lawyers, these lawyers representing the U.S. government, and asking for extradition. But what I will share as I am on my way out is there was a Democracy Now! Segment with Matt Kennard of Declassified UK, and he was speaking outside of court to Amy Goodman. And I want to make sure that people who are interested in this Assange case periodically check back as we continue to see this case unfold in the UK, and read declassifieduk.org as they do reporting. And I'll leave you with these tidbits about the judges that is not attended to by the mass media, but should. So there was a judge named Jeremy Johnson who was there hearing this. You should know that he is someone who used to represent the UK's Secret Intelligence Service, MI6, and the Ministry of Defense. He is somebody who has had access to top secret classified information in the UK, according to Declassified UK. And he basically was a representative. He was paid to represent these government departments He was in some capacity. It was like a legal capacity. He was representing these security state services. There's another individual. The second judge that heard this case is Judge Dame Victoria Sharp. And according to Declassified UK, this is a Tory appointee, so a conservative, and has many people in her family that have attained high-level positions in the British establishment after being appointed by conservative ministers. So these are people who you don't want to trust are going to see the light and free Julian Assange. And at the same time, I think what might be going on here is the punishment by process, right? Like I've raised this before. They may grant a full appeal hearing, but that could be what the US government is okay with. Because if you do the timeline in your head, that lines up pretty well for Joe Biden. It also would line up pretty good for Donald Trump, because we wouldn't have a full appeal hearing until later in the year. Probably they don't get it organized until September. It just takes time to get these things scheduled. And then this would probably last for, it depends on how many of the grounds of appeal they accept, but it could last for up to a week, maybe longer. And then after that, well, they can delay the ruling on any of this, push it until January. Oh, guess what? He's not going to be extradited before the election. Neither Trump nor Biden have to deal with this as an issue during the campaign. Neither Trump has to answer for what happened while he was president. Biden doesn't have to answer for the fact that he's allowed this prosecution to continue.
Or maybe Biden, if he had intelligent people there, might tell him, hey, when we poll on this, you're losing a lot of support on this one issue. So, all right. Thanks for jumping in. I know it was last minute. I asked you, and everybody check out Kevin's work, particularly on Assange at the Dissenter. And thank you very much.
Good to talk with you, Jordan. Oh, and congrats on the book. I saw you on the Vanguard, and I'm looking forward to reading. Good luck.
Absolutely. Thanks. Good segue. I want to take your phone calls now. We could talk about the book if you have questions or whatever else. All I ask, I'm pretty open to topics. Don't like random people calling in about like corruption with solar panels. Like, let's kind of keep it within the realm of like what's going on in the news now, not like rando stuff I might not know much about. Anyway, call in. There's the number. Also, 7:30 Eastern, so in about 2 hours, will be our monthly Status Coup members call. If you are not a Status Coup member, sign up right now for $5 to $10 a month, and you will get the link to our monthly members call, which is always a lot of fun. I will definitely be having some whiskey when we start, because it's been a hell of a week so far for me, and I need it. But I will answer your questions, maybe spill some more tea on the book and other things. There's a lot of tea to spill. Membership is how we fund our on-the-ground reporting, and we like to, as a thank you, do we don't always accomplish it, but we try to do every month a members call. So if you are a member, you will get a link to our members meeting about a half hour before. Colin, jump on real quick to remind people you get it through your email as well as.
Yeah, if you're signed in or a member on Patreon, or either an old member on the website or new, just check your email and you'll get an email for it. If you don't see anything by the time the show starts, I should be sending the email around 6:45 Eastern, but if you don't get anything by the time the show starts, just email info@statuscoup.com. For all our YouTube members, just keep an eye on the community page here on YouTube, and I'll be posting a link directly on there for all our YouTube members.
If you're a member and can't make the call, we do record it and put it under the members section, so you could go back and watch it, listen to it if you want as well. All right, let's. I'm starting up the calls here. Ready? Connect to show. And now share my screen. All right. Let's take some calls. It's been a while. We've been doing a lot of great work John Farina on the ground covering the ceasefire protests. Lewis was just in East Palestine. I am preparing to go back to Flint soon. A lot going on. And I'm on my third round of edits for my book. So happy to talk about that and other things. Colin, let me know when we have our first caller. Let me give a shout out. Tony gifted 1 new membership. Thank you very much, Tony. Appreciate it.
Speaking of Tony, I think that's who our first caller is.
Oh, look at that. All right. Tony, where are you? How's it going, Tony?
Hey, hello, Jordan.
Hey there.
So I'm in Chicagoland area, and as you mentioned on the show before, homelessness has increased 12% nationally, and it's increased a lot here also. I just see people outside the grocery store panhandling for money, and these are immigrants from Venezuela, I hear. And I remember about 2 years ago, you interviewed a homeless person on this show, and then Kyle Kowinski brought that up on his show. And so I'm just curious if you ever plan on going on a tour or doing more reporting on this issue and talking to people, because this is really important.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I would love to. I try to do like at least one reporting tour a year, just focus kind of on like, I don't know what you would call it, the economy, homelessness, poverty. It was a lot easier before I had a 15-month-old daughter to get away for 7-8 days. But yeah, I plan on it. With the issue of homelessness, it's tough because you can't really book that in advance, right? Like I can't book interviews with homeless individuals in advance. You just kind of have to be on the ground and approach people and talk to them first and see if they're open to talking. Some of them, there's issues with mental illness that you don't want to interview them and come off like you're exploiting them. Some of them, there's issues with drug addiction where you're talking to them and you could tell they're not completely there. I don't mean that in a negative way, just, are on something at the moment. So with that, it's hard to like plan a full reporting tour because when I'm going somewhere, you don't want to just plop down with nothing planned. You want to have some things lined up, this and that. But as best as we can, myself and John, when we've been on the ground, Colin, I mean, pretty much everywhere we go, cities have tent cities with homeless people. So we definitely try and, stop in, and we don't really walk in with the cameras because you don't want to be threatening, coming off. You want to be sensitive and respectful to because this is technically their home, the street. So it's not always easy to get a ton of interviews with homeless people, but definitely the next time I'm on the road, I'll try, because honestly, I think that this is the biggest way of piercing the bullshit bubble that our economy is strong. And how could you genuinely say you have a thriving U.S. economy and a wonderful, system? I mean, I think 12%, honestly, is just way underreported. I don't even think, I think it's much more than that, because that's not even factoring in people that are couch surfing. There's a significant people who are homeless that are just kind of couch surfing around. They're not in the streets technically, but like they don't have their own place. So to answer your question, yes, I would like to do that. It's just not something I could necessarily plan in full scope.
It's not even just about the economy. It has to do with foreign policy too, because a lot of these people are immigrants who come here from other countries, and then, they don't have any resources, and they're from countries that we interfered in with sanctions and things like that, which don't get covered in the media.
That's why I've also been, I got a little annoyed on the Vanguard, not with them, but they brought up Jimmy and I kind of went on a tirade. But that's why I kind of get annoyed with so-called leftists now adopting right-wing talking points about migrants and all this, because it's our job to point out a big reason they're coming here is because we've totally fucked up their country. So the people you're seeing that are migrants and are homeless in Chicago and New York, I mean, not all of them, But there is a large percentage of migrants coming to this country, not because of like, oh, the American dream and all that bullshit, but because we have literally been propping up drug cartels in their country, propping up the drug war, sanctioning their countries, which creates hunger and violence, and really fucking up their countries to the point where it's too violent to live, or you're either really rich or dirt poor. And that's not discussed certainly not on Fox News, not in major media. What part of that migrant crisis is caused by us. So I think leftists, if you're an actual leftist, might want to point that out. Sure, I understand if you pay a lot to live in major American cities, it's kind of an eyesore to have homeless people everywhere and to have migrants everywhere. You might feel threatened if they're right next to your school or your kid's school or this and that. But maybe you should have a heart. They're human beings, and maybe figure out what can we do to house them or help make their countries a little better so that they don't want to flood here. I'm not against people wanting to come here if they truly believe it's better for them and their family. But if you took a poll, you talk to people at the border, and we've tried to get Lewis down to the border, it just didn't work scheduling wise. I would say quite a lot of them are coming because of the violence in their homes. And if you look into it, we've caused a lot of that. So.
Yeah. And
if you want to talk about Chicago and elsewhere, there's also a lot of homeless people that are look like you and I, and the fucking rent is too damn high. I mean, you know how many homeless people I've talked to that are not like on drugs or whatever stereotype, but are like just working class people. A lot of them have jobs. A lot of them are working homeless people that the rent has gone up through the roof. And they just were behind a bill, got evicted, and now they're on the streets. Don't have good relationships with their family that they could stay with, this and that. So it's not just this stereotype of like, drug addicts or criminals or migrants now. There's a lot of working class people that are right now on the streets.
And we could spend money to house these people, or
of course
not sanction their countries, but we don't do that.
Of course. And Biden now is, whoever the hell is in his ear, or probably because he's a right winger anyway, is now trying to like pacify right wingers by pushing a crackdown on asylum seekers and a crackdown on migration. It's not going to work because you can't outright Trump on immigration or out bigot Trump and the Republicans on immigration. They don't want to solve it, clearly, by them rejecting Biden's offer, which the Senate bill, which I think was a bad bill anyway and way too right wing. But it's a shame. But on the issue of homelessness, I don't want to hear how great our economy is when I would guess 20 to 25% of our people are without homes.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your support, your membership. I see you in the chat all the time. Well, let me ask you, why are you such a supporter of Status Coup? I always like the feedback.
I discovered you on TYT many, many years ago. And I thought it was ridiculous that they fired you. And after 2016, I was done with them because they supported Clinton. And then I remember you started your own channel in 2018. And I watched that all the time during the election that year. 2019, it was great on-the-ground reporting, especially the coverage of those debates. And I became a member 2 years ago, especially when I saw you cover the Don't Say Gay bill shit in Florida.
Yeah. I don't know if people knew this, I like to keep it real with my audience. Colin could tell you because he had to deal with me. That trip, I won't get too in the weeds, but for those of you that know, I've had a real issue with pooping in my day. It's caused by my antidepressant. It really fucks up my system, and it's been kind of a pick your poison, because when I but then I get depressed within like a month. I just have depression genetically, so I had gotten off the medication to see if I could do okay without it, and that trip, I had just got back on the medication, but it hadn't kicked in. So I was like, I put on an act on camera, and I don't think people could tell, but I was like depressed, and like asking Colin, poor Colin had to deal with me. I'm like, do you think I'll snap out of this? I was like, we stayed at a shitty like hotel. I think it was a motel actually. And I was like by the pool, just like listening to like meditation podcasts, trying to like snap myself out of it. But I'll tell you, I eventually snapped out of the depression, but talking to those high schoolers, the LGBT kids I talked to really helped me, because it puts things into perspective. Like I was going through a depression at that time just because I have depression, but listening to the horror stories from these kids about, their parents kicking them out once they came out, and the bullying in school. I even heard it. Like I heard kids mocking them, like from close by while I was interviewing them. I mean, I was still depressed, but like it put things into perspective. But yeah, that trip was frustrating. A, because I was depressed. B, because like we didn't get many viewers, but there's something to be said for just doing the right thing. And I'm proud that we went down there and covered that, because the mainstream media didn't really cover it from that perspective, like actually talking to kids and LGBT kids. And we even talked to parents of trans kids. And I thought it was very powerful.
They were very good interviews.
Yeah. So I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the support. I got to go to the next person, but I hope to see you on the call.
Thank you.
All right. Joining now is Ninja Rodney, if that's your name.
Hello?
Hey there.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. No, it's Rodney from St. Louis. I don't know why it said Ninja.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll call you Ninja. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just been a fan of yours for a few years now. Just like the last caller, I found you through TYT, and I started watching your independent stuff.
The great city, of St. Louis, where I spent a night in jail.
Louis.
Yeah, I spent a night in jail there.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Really? For what?
Oh, you didn't know about that? Yeah, I got my cameraman and I got arrested covering a Black Lives Matter protest there in 2017.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do remember that. Okay. Yeah. I know a lot of people that I think I had a little email with you a few months ago during the UAW strike, because I know a lot of the people that work at the Winston assembly plant.
Oh, okay.
And my dad had retired from there, and my dad is a lifelong, UAW member, retired. My mom helped start a union in the area for secretaries and support staff. Mm-hmm. And they have been so brainwashed into the right-wing Fox media that they are against all of the things that they live their whole life doing and just can't say it.
Jesus.
So that's essentially what I've been living my last few years, is my entire family has kind of lost their minds.
So they're against unions now?
Oh, yeah, they think that the workers are the ones that are, just being lazy. And my dad, I saw somebody sleeping in the corner one time, and complete 180 from who you would have thought these people would be.
Oh, man.
They're so brainwashed, and my reason
my dad, who's a major Fox News person. My dad has been literally, he'll call me for 6 months. We maybe 3 sentences in, pivots to Hunter Biden. He thinks this is Watergate, right? And, he watches Sean Hannity and Fox News and all this thing, and he thinks Biden is corrupt, but for many other reasons. Right. So anyway, so I said to my dad, I said, hey, Dad, what do you think about, this whole witness apparently that was going to prove that Biden took money from Hunter Biden, all this shit. Apparently he was a phony, and like he was, I haven't looked too much into it, but it came out that like he was being put up to it. My dad said, what are you talking about? I didn't see that. Literally, he didn't even see it on Fox News. So literally
things that I know that they watch all the time, they just act like they have not seen or heard about.
Yep.
Totally. And I know, and their DVR is full of The Five, and it used to be Tucker and all the Hannity, all the shows. I mean, their whole DVR is just full of the shit. There's no way that they miss some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And they've been doing it for years.
Totally.
It's insane. But when you're on your trips and doing your on the ground reporting and stuff, how many subscribers and stuff do you think you might get from those trips, you're doing meet and greets and stuff, if you had to guess, is it substantial, or do you track that?
When I'm doing meet and greets,
Like when you go out and do the reporting, say in Flint or in East Palestine or your guys or whatever, do you guys focus on picking up like subscribers to the channel and stuff? Essentially selling yourselves, creating revenue while you're out?
we try. It's unfortunately not easy.
Okay.
We haven't figured
I
out.
mean,
We haven't
the
figured.
only reason
The truth is
the reason I ask
the truth is, unfortunately, it's really hit or miss. And what I mean by that is
yeah.
some trips we kind of like escaped through the YouTube algorithm somehow. Like UAW, when we were there covering the strike, we were really breaking through and we were going live, and we'd have 1,000, 2,000 live, which is a lot for us. And I'd be pushing it hard because those were a lot of new eyeballs that don't generally see us. So I'd be pushing membership hard, and we'd start getting, 20, 30, some days even more than that signups. And for that, for us, that's big. I mean, if we could get like 20, 30, 40 paid signups a day, that is very sustainable. And if we could get that for a considerable amount of time, I could be asking a lot less for donations and things like that. But then there's trips where, Lewis just went to East Palestine. I think we got, while he was there, like three signups. And it's a delicate balance because with certain stories, you don't want to be on the ground, like looking like all you care about is, making money or raising money. But at the same time, we need to raise money to be able to afford it. So it's kind of like a catch-22. But to answer your question, some trips we break through and get a lot of signups.
So it's hit or miss.
Some trips we lose money, like the East Palestine trip we just took. We lost money. Probably when I go to Flint, we'll lose money because it's a problem. I mean, on YouTube, even though we're on the ground and you would think that being on the ground brings in a new audience, we're at the mercy of YouTube. I mean, if they don't recommend the videos, if they're not pushing it out, then, we can't reach new eyeballs. So.
Yeah, there's times that YouTube doesn't even give you in my feed for my algorithm, and even though I'm subscribed to you.
I hear that
well.
all the time. And I believe that
Yeah.
East Palestine, for example, when we first started covering East Palestine about exactly a year ago, I mean, Jesus, our videos were getting on the low end, 15, 20,000 views. When we were there, the live streams were getting 1,000, 2,000 views. Sure, you would expect it to be a lot more when it happened because it was breaking. But then we're doing videos a year later, and we're getting like 300 views in an hour. Where we're going live to like 150 people. That is way too big of a gap. And then Colin and I were talking, and we said, you know what? We think they're flagging us because the word Palestine, it's pronounced Palestine, not Palestine. But we think because Palestine is in East Palestine that they're flagging it and suppressing it. Flint, I know that word has been suppressed. Amazon, they suppress. Assange, that for years they have suppressed.
Basically, any topic that they don't want the masses to wake up or look too under the surface about, they're going to ghost the people on the left.
Right.
Just like they never speak of you.
And what they do, what YouTube does, is they basically incentivize people to do popcorn bullshit because they prop up in their algorithm conflict, reaction. If you do like a study or survey, look how many people put react in all caps in headlines because YouTube props up any reaction type videos. So on one end, you could say, well, Jordan, be a little bit more clickbaity. But like on the other end, I can't really be clickbaity on like a railroad company nuking a small town. I can't be clickbaity on, I can, but the point is like the story is what it is on Flint, right? It is what it is on East Palestine.
Yeah.
It's not me attacking other channels. It's not like, me reacting to Ben Shapiro. That's other stuff that they prop up. So honestly, that's why I've been begging engineers, if there are leftist engineers out there, to make some type of open source alternative to YouTube. Even if you got less viewers in the short term, that you could
Like a
actually
nebula for lefties.
reach more people. You could actually reach more people, believe it or not, if you weren't being algorithmically suppressed. I was advocating for years for like progressives don't necessarily need to get off YouTube, but like come together in like a network that could be through, you know, a website or an app. That never happened for many reasons. But to answer your question, I mean, it's tough because we want to be on the ground, but like it costs a lot of money. I mean, just John covering the Palestine protests, I don't think people realize, like, obviously I pay him, but then like our live streaming unit costs us $500 to $1,000 a month. It could be as much as 1,000, depending on how many hours we live stream, because we have a data plan. And if we go over, we get charged up the ass. So it's, you know, it does get frustrating when you see some channels talking about absolute bullshit and the super chats are flooding and like we're on the ground, really the only one, and we're not really getting it. So maybe it's people just don't, you know. I've also thought about maybe just itemizing, like, these are the costs. Do people want to sponsor, you know, or help sponsor this bucket of costs? So there's a lot of different things, but to be clear, we do push ourselves. We do promote ourselves when we're on the ground, but I also don't want to, like, during a 2-hour live stream covering a strike, to be spending half the time trying to get money.
Oh,
of
course. Of course. I was just kind of asking just to gauge and see, you know, how effective it may have been, because this whole past year, for a lot of various reasons, could go offline and talk, but I've had so many, I've come from a sales and training background, and overcoming objections and talking with almost 98% of the mega heads around me, even talking to the corporate brain in a different way, brainwashed in their stupid cult, a lot of the Zionist cult now, but they can't do anything besides protect the tribe, have a substantial, critical thinking, cordial conversation with people. And I have a lot of ideas for some active media campaigns, like critical thinking type deals, telling people such a good story and putting it together over time to basically like that they cannot look away. And you get people into the cause from that, like a scared straight, you know, for, you know, our new political culture. But I would love to like talk to you offline at a point, and because I'm looking for a change. I'd be willing to travel this country in an RV, working with you, connecting with you, pushing you.
You should talk to
others.
You should talk to John Farina. He's trying to save up for like a little RV that he could drive around and cover stuff.
Because I don't have any kids. I'm not married anymore. And if I'm thinking about this stuff all the time, I would love to be able to sink my teeth into something and help whoever out.
Yeah, you know, honestly, yeah. I mean, feel free to email me. It's just first name, last name @statuscoup.com. But yeah, okay. It's definitely tricky because there's so many factors. Number one, timing. Like, for example, the story Tony was talking about that I went on the ground with Colin, I think in 2023, maybe 2022, covering the Don't Say Gay bill. That was going to be a tough climb anyway, because, like, you know, it wasn't like right when DeSantis signed it. And that week, we just unluckily, it was the Supreme Court hearing for Ketanji Brown Jackson. And I believe it was like pretty early on, maybe the first month or two in the Russia-Ukraine war. So, like, you got a Supreme Court justice hearing going on. You got Russia-Ukraine just launching. So obviously, like, that's all people were talking about on YouTube. That's all the mainstream media was covering. So a lot of times we go on the road and like something breaks nationally and we get kind of drowned out, or you're just caught in like what I just described, like a war breaks out or something like that. So you can't really predict like when you're going to go on the road. Is it more of a dead spot in the news where like our story could shine? Another issue is, I'll just be honest, it's really fucking hard to get bigger outlets to give a damn. It's really hard. I'm not like attacking them, but it's really hard. You know, when I was at the Young Turks, I've been open about this. It was pulling teeth just to get the Young Turks, who were paying for us to be out there, to actually feature my on the ground stuff on their main show. Like, can you believe that? The fact that they were investing on sending me to Flint, to Standing Rock, along the campaign trail. And I'd say 70% of the time I tried to get them to feature my stuff on the main show, not like for my ego, but like, why the fuck am I out here if I can't even get the damn network that I work for to cover it? And it would be good for them too, because it would help them drive membership, featuring their own on the ground reporting. But I couldn't even get Jank to feature it on the main show a lot of the time. So, I'm lucky that we have.
It didn't get as much clicks as other stuff, I guess.
Oh no, the opposite.
That's probably it.
No, it wasn't that. It's just he's an egomaniac and wanted to hear himself talk. And I
really think that. I mean,
I think
I
think Jank. And this isn't because they fired me. This is just what I truly believe. I think Jank made a mistake calling it the TYT network, because to have a network, you have to be willing to elevate others, equal, if not higher than yourself. And he was never willing to do that. Some of his excuse, like one example that I've told before, I was in Florida covering the primary in 2016 between Tim Canova and Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And at that point, other than Bernie, who was obviously like, that was the height of the Bernie movement, 2016, other than Bernie, like Tim Canova was like the biggest show in town, like the top progressive candidate on the congressional level, because everybody hated Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She had to resign from the DNC. And I went down there to cover the race. I was there like a week before the race. And I interviewed Canova, and he made news. He basically said, like, Bernie won't return my phone calls. He couldn't get Bernie to come down for him. And right now I can't get Bernie to return my phone calls. Every outlet picked it up, like Politico, the Washington Post, all these outlets. I'm excited because it's like, oh, we're on the ground and we got this soundbite and like it's news. And Jank wouldn't put it on the show. And I sent him a long text message that, to his credit, he didn't fire me, but I didn't mince words. And then he called me and gave me this bizarre fucking like birds and the bees lecture about how like, we have two audiences, Jordan. One is the progressive audience and one is the general audience. And the general audience doesn't know who Tim Canova is. And I said, well, first of all, I really have no idea what you're talking about because your audience is progressive. I mean, if you don't know that, you have an issue. But secondly, if the general audience doesn't know who Tim Canova is, it's because you haven't covered the race. But I could promise you the general audience knows who Debbie Wasserman Schultz is, because she's the most hated politician other than Hillary Clinton among progressives. And putting all that aside, for business purposes, why wouldn't you want to highlight that your reporter on the ground got basically that Bernie is deserting a top? I mean, Tim Canova has kind of gone on the Looney Tunes since then, but at the time he was progressive. He was, raising a lot of money, and he just told me we couldn't fit it in the show, and I don't think the audience would care. So I learned through other people and through my experiences. I think it's more that, Jank became a big star by sharing his opinions and bloviating and talking. I mean, it took him a decade to give Anna a show. When Jimmy Dore was sane, he put Jimmy's show behind a paywall instead of putting him on every day, which would have been better for the Young Turks. So I just think Jank, honestly, I think he was willing to have other people, but not allow them to build or shine brighter than him, if that makes sense.
With shine from within.
Yeah.
I got you.
But the long story short, it is very tough. I mean, honestly, sometimes we had an offer many years ago. I won't mention who, but from not a bad person, but somebody who's, within the Democratic Party and has given a lot of money to the Democratic Party and told me it would be hands off and they wouldn't, be trying to dictate editorial control. But I just thought to myself, you know what? If I have any doubt that that's true, I shouldn't take it. And I did have a doubt because if this person's given money to influence politicians, why do I think he wouldn't try to influence the media he's donating to? So I didn't take the money. And if I would have taken the money, it was a lot of money. And we would have to ask for money a lot less. But at the same time, I don't really regret it because although it's very difficult to grow this way and we are basically being strangled by YouTube, I think this is a more pure way of doing things from the ground up. And although membership is flat right now, I mean, I'm not going to lie, membership is flat. We're not really getting signups right now, partially because we're not able to reach new eyeballs. At least I know, like, we are covering things the way we want to cover it, the way it needs to be covered. We covered things even knowing that it's not necessarily going to get a gazillion views because it should be covered, you know? If I wanted to make money, trust me, I wouldn't have stayed on Flint for the last 8 years because we're not making money on that. I'm not going to make money. I'm not going to like become a New York Times bestseller off of a Flint book. That's not going to happen. But there's something to be said. There's something to be said for doing the right thing. So that's what we try to do.
Oh, exactly. And kudos to you, man. Kudos, you're awesome. Taking my hat off to you. We just need to connect more. The left has to connect, and all these piddly, stupid online wars that people have. Get past it. We agree on 98% of the stuff, and let's go.
I got to tell you, man, I am just exhausted by all of the quote left. I mean, it's just become one fucking giant.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you like cancellation tour. I mean, listen, Cornel West is running for president. He's open to criticism, but to see all these channels who were like having him on and pom-poms for Cornel West like 6 months ago, and now they're like shitting on him and all these negative things because one tweet he put out that you don't agree with. I mean, if the standard now is like, if a politician or a YouTube host we like, if they say something or do something or have a position that we don't agree with, they're corrupt or they're now establishment. I mean, if that's the standard, then we should.
They're right wing.
We should enjoy being in the minority of American politics forever, because there's a difference between like purity and insanity. And if you are going to just cancel people you liked like 5 minutes ago, and cancel people you respected like 5 minutes ago, and cancel people that you had on your show many times, and cancel people that, frankly, you got a lot of clicks off of because like they express sympathy for Navalny's family. It doesn't like, all right, maybe you think Navalny was a racist nationalist. Okay. So you could criticize Cornel West on that without like all these clickbait, like Cornel West is the establishment and Cornel West is a Karen and all. Like, it's just, I don't know what else. It's lowest common denominator, brainless bullshit, and it's getting us nowhere. I mean, Jimmy started it with like, canceling Kyle and Humanist Report and Rational National and everyone under the sun that he could cancel who weren't pure enough for Jimmy. He wouldn't cancel, Nick Brana and MPP. He wouldn't cancel Trump or any right wingers. But like, where is it getting at us? If you have such a bar that like the only people pure enough for you are like, I don't know, people that are
voters.
People that are as diehard as you and believe everything you believe 100% of the time, enjoy your echo chamber, because it's going to be a small echo chamber. So that's why I've always said, you know what? At times in this industry, there is temptation to kind of say things you don't believe. There is temptation to turn on people. It would have been a lot easier for me to start to turn on Bernie like 2 years ago when everyone else started to. But I just don't believe in throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I don't believe in, I believe in taking things case by case. I believe, listen.
Yeah, good criticism is not falter, it's fine, but
I'm not happy. I'm not happy.
Aggressive.
I'm not happy with Bernie right now. I think he should use the word genocide and not be afraid of that.
Genocide.
I'm not happy with how he's basically folded the tent and been a Biden guy, but I'm not going to erase 40 years of fighting when no one else was. I'm not going to just throw that out.
Right.
So I don't know if people want to say that makes me establishment or whatever, fine. But I just think the left needs to snap out of this. Like, you're canceled and you're done over anything. Because that's really, I don't really know what it's accomplishing.
Well, in my world, people think that Biden is a socialist commie. He's the left, and Nancy Pelosi. And I'm like, if they're the left, I'm fucking Mr. T. It's like, Jesus Christ. It's just ridiculous. And that story, like, individual reporting on the stories and stuff that you say might not be as exciting. Great. But I'm talking about a story that the things that we weren't taught in school on purpose, the shit that got us here, the the reasons and the nuances of stuff, because I have learned more in the past since Trump came down that fucking escalator about just so many things about our society and the world from you and, you know, Majority Report and Democracy Now!, all great leftist places, that if I'd had it to do over again, if I'd have been in college, I'd have been an investigative reporter. I'm just so frustrated.
Well,
But
they won't teach you. They won't. They
time.
won't teach you how to be an investigative reporter in college because they mostly.
Yeah. So
they mostly,
and I was like, I wouldn't even want to be brainwashed into that. So
they mostly teach you
but
bullshit.
I would love to talk to you offline. I got some passion for some stuff and some great ideas.
Yeah,
I love
sure.
your work, buddy.
Awesome. Email me, jordanchariton@statuscoup.com.
Okay. Thank you, Jordan.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
I don't see any other callers. So if people are shy, that's okay. But feel free to call in. I'll leave the lines open for a minute or two more. Colin, while we're waiting for people, jump in for a second. If you're there, I know you had to let the dogs out. Oh, I guess there he is. Well, I thought you could chime in too, because he was asking, like, do we make money off of these trips? And I don't think people realize, like, it's pretty damn expensive to take two people anywhere for minimum 4 or 5 days. And really, to break even, we need to be signing up, I would say, like 50 to 70 members each trip, or get, $3,000 in donations. And we're trying to focus on signing up members. So when you're trying to focus on signing up members, you want to push membership more than donations. But then we're going live to like 200 people because YouTube is suppressing us. So maybe you could share, because you've been on the road with me. It's not easy. We try to promote ourselves and gain membership, but it's not easy.
Yeah, no, and that's one thing I've seen people, like, not people, but I've seen those comments occasionally of, oh, do you, make money off these trips, or how much you make? And it's not a factor of I don't know, I could be wrong, but there's probably like maybe 1 or 2 trips where we've made money, but that's never the goal. The goal is always to just break even and not lose money on the trips. Let's be clear.
Let's be clear. The goal is to grow, which equates to making money. But the goal,
as far as a minimum standard of, like,
yes.
If we can break even, then at least that's a good batting average. It's better than, like, a lot of our trips where we lose money. Like, obviously we're not here to, like, grow rich or anything, but making that money, like you're talking about, if we make money off of East Palestine, then we're able to take that extra money, and we don't go to a steakhouse altogether to celebrate getting extra money from that trip. We literally just take that and be like, cool, now we can maybe do another trip next time. And so That's all we do if we do get money. But like I said, that's a hope for the future that these trips would do that. But it's just covering what matters with a reason. Like, we don't want to go negative 5,000 every trip. But.
I mean, honestly, we were on the road for 3 weeks covering the UAW strikes. We covered the first 25 days. I mean, we didn't do the exact numbers, but I would have to think we spent at least $7,000-8,000 in those 3 weeks. It was myself. Then I had to bring in Tina, Ron, John was on the ground. That's 25 days of hotels, rent-a-cars, continually extending a rent-a-car, which costs a lot of money to keep extending a rent-a-car, paying 3, Ron, Tina, John. Yes, we made money because we got signups, but, was it, maybe we made a little bit more than we spent, but we spent it. It's all a gamble. Like, we're probably going to lose money, but this is historic. And we want to cover this because we believe, based on the reaction we were getting from workers, that that literally our coverage was helping the UAW workers communicate. Our coverage was helping the UAW workers kind of get excited and ginned up, because people were telling us that. We had UAW workers. We had people that aren't even a part of UAWs turn around because they saw us live on the picket line and come up and say, "Oh, I saw your UAW stuff and came over to support them." So that's why we decided to stay there. But then but it's a gamble, because sometimes we get home from a trip and I look at our bank account and I'm like, fuck. I mean, Colin could tell you, I'm not hiding anything. We're looking at our overhead and we're trying to make cuts, because I want to be able to keep Ron. I want to be able to keep Tina. I want to be able to keep John. I want to be able to keep, pay Colin more. I need to make more. I have a daughter now. But we don't have a money tree and we don't have any, big dollar donors funding us. So that's why I'm always asking and short of begging people to support us. $5 a month, $10 a month. Why don't you bring your text message alerts back, Colin? You could tell them why.
Well, two things on it, actually. One is because, it costs a lot of money, and the return essentially on it wasn't a lot, and we'd rather just, like we've just been talking about, spend that money straight on reporting. So just
I think that
However,
I think that text message list was costing us like $500 a month.
Yes, roughly, sometimes more. But there might be a roundabout. If you guys are members on the news site, there might be a way for us to bring back text for you guys, at least if you're interested, or for something else like that. So there might be a way to bring it back in the future. But right now it's just for that amount of money. There's a lot of other stuff we could do.
Yeah. And also somebody wrote, I lost the comment, you're suppressed at 172,000 subscribers.
I saw that.
Yes.
Someone doesn't know what suppressed means. They're like, big number means you're not suppressed. Big number compared to our viewer numbers. You could, by saying the 179K, you can go look at our numbers and percentage wise, and then you can see based on specific topics how the suppression works. There's a whole thing, but I'm just going to guess that some other YouTube channel dogged on you again, because I've seen a couple people in chat, so just saying random stuff. So I'm guessing that's one of them.
Yeah, I don't care. But
more than maybe.
But no, I mean, you just because you have a big number doesn't mean like you're reaching 172. If we were actually reaching 172,000 subscribers every day, I'd be through the moon happy. But we're not. Unfortunately, I mean, a large percentage of people tell us, like, I don't see you in my feed. I don't see you in my subscriber feed. I don't see you. You're never recommended to us. Sometimes we break through. And we're like recommended for certain things, like during UAW, we were getting recommended a lot. East Palestine in the beginning, when we covered it a year ago, we were breaking through in recommendations. But then sometimes people say, I haven't seen you in my feed. And then you could say, well, maybe you're not covering things people care about. No, the problem is YouTube basically dictates what people care about, because YouTube's algorithm basically pushes forward, like I said, conflict, reactionary stuff, yada, yada, yada. So it's either us play to that and do topics we don't want to do, topics we don't think are important, or cover the things we feel we should cover and, go from there. All right, let me take another caller. Ellen, you're up.
Hello.
Hey there.
Hi. Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Jordan, I don't wait for you to come up in my feed. I go to YouTube every day at this time and look for Status Coup, and I'm a faithful listener, and I think you guys are the best journalists out there. You and Michael Moore. Anyway, I called to say something about East Palestine. Biden, he was wrong when he made that address. He said, we don't, something to the effect of, we don't want train cars to explode, and spill chemicals all over. They didn't explode. They were detonated.
Yes, thank you.
That just made me so mad. And then he tweeted about it, and it was so weak. It just drove me crazy. So thanks to Lewis for all the great reporting.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's be clear. Biden, benefit of the doubt, he doesn't know the details because he's, senile and old. His EPA certainly knows the details. His EPA certainly
Michael
knows.
Reagan. Oh my God.
And this didn't need to happen. They chose to explode those cars, as we've reported extensively. The minute the owner of the chemical cars testified that we advised them, not once, not twice, 3 times, that there was no risk of these cars exploding. They didn't need to do it. There should have been an immediate investigation. There should be records of the temperature of those cars. It would have shown that the temperatures were going down, and they unnecessarily, recklessly, criminal negligence and recklessness endangered the people of East Palestine. And there should be criminal charges. And the fact that there's not and that Biden's talking about, well, we're taking it to Norfolk Southern. How? Finding them?
Yeah,
Please.
right,
So,
right. No criminal charges. And, yeah, oh God, I lost my thought. Anyway, he and Michael Reagan were just so self-congratulatory. They were just congratulating themselves on what a great job they had done. Anyway, that's all I have to say.
well, Michael
Thanks.
Reagan is another Obama who, they take a glass of water. He did that in a kitchen, somebody's kitchen in
Yeah.
East Palestine, and say,
Yeah.
everything's okay. Well, go talk to the residents there. We're already talking to those who have cancer. Of course, we can't definitively connect it, but like a man got breast cancer, pretty rare. A woman got breast cancer, no family history. People are still sick. And basically, Biden went in a very controlled setting. He did not talk to any residents that we know. He was in and he was out, and that's it. You're not going to hear about it anymore. So,
Yeah. It was sad. It was infuriating. Anyway.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your support. All right. I got to end the call because my beautiful wife is asking me to pick up the mantle. I got to go watch my daughter. Hour and 15 minutes. We will be back for our Status Coup members call. So that is for our members. So if you are not a Status Coup member yet, please sign up, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for $5 a month. We have other levels, $10 a month, $20 a month, and $179 annually. But bottom level is $5 a month, which is 16 cents a day. So go to statuscoup.com/join. If you sign up within the next half hour or so, you will get an email link to join our members call. You do not have to have your camera on if you are camera shy in the members call. You could just listen. But we usually go for an hour and a half, 2 hours, take your questions, comments, and concerns, spill more tea than I've spilled here. So looking forward to that. That will be in an hour and 15 minutes. Colin, come on and just remind people how they get the link.
Yeah, you just go, or you don't get it. You just wait for it to come into your email. If you've already signed up as a member, if you haven't, obviously go to statuscoup.com/join. But otherwise, just wait. If you don't get the email by like 7 p.m. Eastern, then just check your spam or the members Discord. If you still have issues, info@statuscoup.com, send the email. As for YouTube members, just check the community tab right here on YouTube.
And selfishly, to remind you, the pre-order for my book, We the Poisoned, is now available in the description. So if you want to press the link and pre-order my book, it will be out in August. I am going to release an excerpt of the book well before August, but I would love to start getting pre-orders. Really appreciate anybody who pre-orders the book. I am going to purchase as many as I can afford, probably 100 or so, and just give it to Flint residents for free, so that Flint residents who, might not be able to afford it can at least get it for free. But for the rest of you, sorry, I can't buy it for everybody. The pre-order link is in the description under the video, and I would really be excited to see as many of you as possible pre-order. I do not think it's dramatic when I say what you think you know, like how corrupt you think the government is, or everything you think you know about government corruption. Once you read this book, times that by 20. And Colin, you could come on. You've read some of it. What would you say? I know I'm your boss, but you can tell the truth.
Yeah, no, it's very, I'd say it, for me at least, it'd be one of those books where I'd have to read it in chunks because you get so angry reading it that I would just be like, have to be like, all right, got to go settle down and I'll just pick up tomorrow. Is basically a good mood setter.
And for those who have asked, because I have had this question and I'm waiting to hear back from the publisher, I don't see why they would say no. I do plan on doing an audio version. So if you are more of like an audio book person, I do plan on doing that. I don't know if it will be my voice or not, but it'll be somebody. So that's in the works too. But for now, it's only going to be, in bookstores, but I hope that there will be an audio version too. So anyway, I will see you guys on the members call. Please sign up, statuscoup.com/join. And if you have any issues getting the link, you could email info@statuscoup.com. I'll see you in a bit.